Hello,
Hey,
everyone. I'm Mika Pearson from Fascination Street. I am your co-host, Mika Pearson, and your host, Jimmy Pearson.
hello everyone. I finally made it for a show. I'm not
Yay!
half past dead this week, so I thought, you know, I may as
Seeing
well
as you're
show up.
alive, you should show up.
Absolutely. I think you need to be turning that off. You definitely need to be turning that off, young man. Kids and technology, it's amazing. And also eating lots of sweeties at the
Yeah,
same time.
I'm surprised he done that with sweets in his mouth.
Yeah, you thought he'd be clever, but we went live and he still had sweeties on the go. Doesn't mean you can have more.
Leave the sweeties
Right,
alone.
so Mika's with us. I'm here. Sarah, as always, is
Hi guys.
producing, monitoring the chat room, and as always, over the other side is Fascination Street Dog doing the usual
Ducky.
chill routine.
Oh,
Doug, over here. Look, say hello. There he
Hello.
is. He's alive and well. So there you go. The team's here. Right, Mika, how's your week been? Had a good week?
I've had a good week.
You still eating sweeties?
Yeah, he is.
No, I actually ain't. Look,
Right, okay, cool.
um, it's been one of those weeks where you've just been chilling and you can't explain how it's been.
Well, you've been off school this week because I don't know how it is
Yes!
in Australia or the US at the moment, but our kids are all on half term, so that's like a week off school again. Um, so yeah, so that's it. Have you done anything exciting? Have you been anywhere exciting?
Falling over. That was exciting. Yeah,
Exhibit A. Show the camera. Show the camera. Show the camera.
I have not fractured it. I have not broken it. I have got the biggest cut that is not in the world.
That's it.
It is deep.
He is now officially a member of the Danger Club for life. He really, really is.
And surprise, surprise, we got a message from one of my uncles, didn't we? What did it say? Well done, stuntman. See, I'm a stuntman. Yeah.
So obviously he's very, very proud of his war wound, which is situated like that. Me, it's been work, work, work.
Injury. Work, work, work,
Yeah,
work.
the saddest part of the week is getting the message out on social media
What was that?
that Shadows of Your Mind is taking an indefinite hiatus at the
What does
moment.
that mean?
It means at the moment that Dave's taking a bit of a break from doing Shadows of Your Mind, which was one of the most legitimate, well researched, and well put together magazines for our community. So he's going to take a bit of time out. Hopefully, if enough of us can get on to Dave to let him know that, the magazine is fantastic, it's credible, and it's what the community needs, you may
Yeah.
reconsider his game plan because genuinely having Dave within the community is an amazing thing. And the magazine itself was, yeah, it was an essential must have. We're not just saying that because they're show associates. We're saying that because it genuinely was something fantastic. So, Dave, if you're watching, hopefully you'll get back to brass tacks soon, and
We do miss you.
yeah, you have a bit of a holiday, reconsider things, and you'll bring Shadows of Your Mind back.
Do you know
But
what? I'll give you tomorrow off for a starter.
I'll pay you £5 if you do it, tax free. Right. Okay. So
Okay.
tonight we have our wonderful guest Michelle Emree, who's waiting quietly in the wings there, playing with her deck of tarot cards. Michelle, good evening.
Hi.
How are you?
Glad
You
to
all
be
good?
here. I'm wonderful. I'm terrific. I'm in New Orleans, which is my favorite place to be. So I know, and I don't mind the heat because I've been cold. So actually, I'm actually enjoying. Everybody else is sweating and complaining, and I'm
Yes.
really enjoying it.
We're going for a bit of a mini heat wave here in the UK at the moment.
Really? Yes.
Seriously, we've got the sun that goes down over this window here, and we have a bay window.
Uh-huh.
But to stop the light coming into both mine and Mika's eyes, we've had to like pull the blinds, and it's turned our house into like a total heat box. We have like a fan light which
Oh,
is going
right.
at full blast. So if you see us kind of like that at some
Yeah.
point, we've ramped it up a little bit more. Right. So Michelle,
Yes.
shall I introduce you to our audience?
That sounds wonderful.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So, Michelle Emree is a writer, a performer, and a reader of the tarot. She casts healing spells in her work as a storyteller, in her life as a teacher of both tarot philosophy and the craft of writing. She lives between several cities in the USA with her canine familiar, Friday. Right. Okay. So let's
Yes.
do a brief. Hang on a second. I've got to get Sarah to do a techie bit. We'll do a
All
brief
right.
history on the tarot.
Hold on a sec.
Fantastic. Thank you. Right. So
Dabby dozy.
this is on how stuff works. So thank you very much to them for the article. According to tarot historian Tom Tadfer Little, traditional playing cards were first seen in Europe in 1375, having been brought over from the Islamic societies where they had been used for centuries before that.
Oh, there must have been wood then. And then they must have had scratched people in.
These cards were not, however, tarot cards. At this point, he says there is no evidence to show that tarot cards had yet been created, which goes against many claims that ordinary playing cards evolved from the original tarot deck. It wasn't until 1440 that the cards that were most likely the origin of tarot cards were first mentioned. In a letter from the Duke of Milan, there was a request for several decks of triumph cards to be used at a special event. The letter differentiated triumph cards from regular playing cards. It does appear, however, that the first tarot decks were created as a game. There were 4 suits with cards numbered 1 through 10, and also court cards that included Queen, King, Knight, and Page. The deck also included 22 symbolic picture cards that did not belong to any suit. The decks were used to play a game called Triumph that was similar to Bridge. In Triumph, 21 of the 22 special picture cards were permanent trump cards. The game spread quickly to all parts of Europe. People began referring to as tarocchi, which is an Italian version of the French word tarot, around 1530. In 1781, in France and England, followers of the occult discovered tarot cards. They saw the symbolic pictures of the cards as having more meaning than just simple trump cards they were used for at the time. They used the cards as a divination tool, and occult writers wrote about the tarot after this. The tarot became part of occult philosophy. There are also those that believe that tarot cards originated in Egypt. In some circles, they are thought to be the sole surviving book from the Great Fire that burned the libraries in ancient Egypt. In this theory, the cards are considered to be the hieroglyphical keys of life.
Wow, that's a good history.
That's not a bad intro, right?
It's not a bad intro. I recently had. I do classes, like I said, in several different cities in the USA. So, and right now I'm in a place where I'm going to do workshop here tomorrow night, which is it's a lounge connected with a costume shop here called Boutique du Vampire. So, I recently, with my students, I also am now doing something that's called tarot camp. You know, because like as adults, we don't get to go to camp anymore. So for people who have been through my course, my 6-week course, I started doing something called tarot camp. And I recently had a speaker at tarot camp who said something really interesting. I thought was really interesting about the possible history. I generally take Rachel Pollack, who is a teacher of mine in both writing and tarot, always says, you know, in terms of the history, she always says, well, no one knows. So I like that history because you said a few things I hadn't heard before that I think is really interesting. But one of the speakers at my tarot camp said something I'd never heard before that I found fascinating. So apparently there was a point in time where the major arcana, the trump cards, right, were illegal apparently across Europe, across everywhere. And if you were caught with them, you were in trouble. So people would use a standard deck of playing cards to read the cards, and then they would make their own trump cards. So where for then you have enter in, then the Romani people are forced into nomadism from their lands, right? And forced into these variety of ways of making money. They don't have a way to make money. And so one of the things that apparently, according to my speaker, that is, they were the first people to make and sell the trump cards to go along with your with your regular deck of playing cards so that you could read tarot. I just found that absolutely fascinating. So that's, I don't, you know, and that would be something that isn't written. So that's an oral tradition. I've never heard anyone say that. So there's a lot about tarot that it just isn't written down, and it goes back through many traditions as far as I understand. It's found in many traditions, and it goes in all of them far enough back to defy written history. So anyway, I appreciate that history.
No, that's good. What I'll do is, if you want, I'll send that to you after the show.
I would love that.
So you
Great.
can have a
Thank
flick
you.
through at your own time.
Great.
It's funny you say that, because I remember we have card makers in the UK called Waddingtons. I don't know if you have them in the States as well, but they were like kind of a real big card maker. And
Okay.
I remember back in the 80s, if you ever brought a deck of cards from Waddingtons, they'd always put in an extra couple of blank cards. So it makes me wonder whether or not it was just one of those, like, you can either use it as a replacement card, or if you were kind of doing the older. I'm going to have to look that up now.
I know, it's interesting, right?
Yeah, because you always used to get like your standard deck of cards, your 52 cards.
Mm-hmm.
You'd also get your 2 jokers, and there would be like a couple of just empty plain cards in there.
Are you talking about Snap, basically? Kind of like the cards.
Those, yeah, exactly. Normal playing cards. I don't think we haven't got a deck of playing cards, have we?
Yeah, I do.
Have you got a deck of playing cards?
It is. Yep. They are small, but I do have.
That's
some.
all right, darling. It's not about size. Ask your mummy. So how did you first get involved in tarot yourself?
Well, it was 2002, and I was living in New Orleans, Louisiana, which is, you know, I mean, tarot's a big deal here. You know, one of the things that, right, one of the things that I love everything about this city, but one of the things that's wonderful is we have in Jackson Square, there's the cathedral there, and on Sundays you can watch people leaving Catholic church services, and all out front are all the tarot card readers, like literally right outside the door, right? So you can, because they read in Jackson Square on the weekends, and so when you walk out from mass, you can sit down and have your cards read. So those two things are not, it's not really so separate here, you know. There's spirituality is a big part of being here. So. Right. I know. Right. It's you know, once you get used to New Orleans, it's certainly not. But yeah, at first I really found that pretty wild. So I delivered pizzas on my bicycle, you know, pedal bicycle through the French Quarter and the Central Business District here. That's what I did for a living in 2001, 2002. But I had been, at one point in time, whilst doing this job, I'd been hit by a car pretty significantly. And it took I had a pretty bad concussion, but it actually took about, I don't know, almost a year for the real injury to show up, because that's when stuff happens to your bones, it can take a while. So my head basically went out of position, and my arm did this, and I was suddenly very injured, and I was in a lot of pain. And I couldn't do anything. I couldn't work. I couldn't even take care of my animals and the things I needed to do. So I wound up being in bed in a lot of pain for several months. And I was a writer, but it was my arm, so I didn't write. And honestly, the pain and the state of mind that I was in, I couldn't actually, nothing really took my mind off of how much pain I was in. Occasionally, a housemate of mine, she would read to me, and that would take the pain away for a little while. That would get my mind off of it. Other than that, I was really in kind of a mess. And it was at that point in time, someone said, you know, here's this deck of tarot cards. It wasn't this specific deck, but it was Rider-Waite. Here's this deck of tarot cards, and they're not working for me, but maybe you would like them. And I was in bed. I was in pain. A lot was going on. For me, emotionally, psychologically, physically, all of that. And so at that point in time, I got this deck of cards. And I had seen tarot cards before, but they didn't really mean, like, I didn't have a specific interest in them outside of like, oh, isn't that cool? People read tarot cards. Isn't that great? You know, but outside of that, I don't even think I'd ever had my tarot cards read. Okay. So anyway, I'm lying in bed and this beautiful deck of tarot cards captured my attention. It was what could distract me from my healing process, which was long and difficult and painful, and it distracted me. So I actually was in bed with this injury for 3 months, which is an incredibly long period of time. And during that period of time, the only thing I could really do was learn to read the tarot cards. And so I worked with them for hours and hours a day. I had somebody get me a couple of books from the library, and by the time I got up from my injury, I could read cards. And so that's actually right. So that's how I got involved with it. And looking back now, that's been a long enough ago time that I realized how deep and personal my root with them really, really is. And I continue to use them to make myself physically, psychologically, socially healthy. They're with me all the time at this point in time, right? It is. And I didn't even, at the time, I certainly didn't realize what was about to happen to me, that my life was going to really wind up being devoted to this art and this philosophy, and how that would grow and change over time.
Absolutely. And the thing is as well, because I mean, obviously my rider deck I take everywhere with me. I even done a reading the other day for one of the girls at work.
Did you?
So I'm gonna get there. It's gonna take me a little while, and I was sort of like done the usual. Look, I am gonna have to refer to my guide as we go through. I'm still learning, blah blah, because there is a lot to learn with regards to the tarot, which I want to touch on in a moment. But I also like how the whole kind of stigma and woo-woo around the tarot has now gone. They seem to be like becoming so popular now.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of people, whether or not people never, used to say they didn't do it or anything like that, but everyone now seems to either have tarot or, they're teaching tarot. Exactly. So I mean, even you like picking up my deck and having a look through. When we had Sabrina on a little while ago, I don't know if you saw the show that we done with Sabrina Campbell.
I've got to say, I didn't. Did I say about the death card?
Yeah, you pulled that one out and we had a little bit of a shock because Sabrina comes on and she's a friend of ours. She's a psychic up in Canada. She also does was it Oracle cards as well.
Oh,
so
cool.
She does a pull while we're doing the show and bits and pieces. So while we were there, Mika kind of got stuck into going through like my rider deck, and it was already really cool. I recommend if you get a few minutes, watch that show. Anything with Sabrina Campbell, she is truly amazing. You'd love her, you really would. But yeah, again, we're sort of like saying about the whole stigma around all of these things, and even like seeing like CW. Even doing sort of like card. I mean, who ever thought in a million years you'd see CW Chanter pulling cards, right?
It's okay now, though. Everybody's jumping out of the closet, right?
The tarot closet.
The tarot closet. They are. Bam, I can read cards. Yeah. For sure.
But yeah, again, like the interest though around it is, and because like when I said it was at work that I'm learning to do them. Years ago, you would have just got that, and everyone was just sort of like, "Oh, can you do me next? Would you?" So yeah, I mean,
did you do a girl yesterday or today?
No, it was a little while ago. I'm not going to say when because obviously I want to keep that person's anonymity. So,
Nice.
So yeah, and the whole stigma's gone, which is a very cool thing, right?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much of the esoteric things now which are out, and 'cause, I mean, when you talk about tarot, a lot of people kind of have the whole kind of they're related to devil worshipping. They're related. It's nothing like that at all, is it?
No, it's not. It's this is very interesting for me too. Just where the different places that I am in the U.S. doing this. Like New Orleans, obviously it's very accepted. It's been part of the culture here for so long. But then I go a little bit up the Mississippi, and I'm in Paducah, Kentucky, which in the United States this is called the Bible Belt. And so, you know, people are very deeply Christian and very deeply superstitious in lots of ways, which tarot actually goes back. Christian mystics use tarot. Like, it goes back to Judean mysticism. Like, I mean, it predates Christianity and is also part of Christianity. But that doesn't matter in the middle of the United States. People are very, they're very religious in so many ways, right? And so I work at this, I teach tarot at this little shop in this little town in Kentucky. And the nicest church ladies show up and take these classes with me. And I think maybe some of them maybe hide it from some of their friends. Other ones are becoming very outspoken about it. But definitely when I look around the room, it's not what I would have thought would be happening 10 years ago. You know, it's not what, and even the shop itself in the last few years that I've been involved with the shop, she's opened up to that. Like at first, she didn't have books and decks there, you know, and she would say, well, you know, I have to like be careful with the environment we're in. And now she does. So, and I think it's really amazing. And there's so much healing work that can really happen and so much psychology that really happens with the cards, and more people are coming to it. I mean, I view tarot camp is in the Bible Belt in the US, you know, and so, you know, I mean, that's like, right. I mean, I think it's wonderful. And I think it's a wonderful loosening up. And yes, at first I felt like I needed to tell people it wasn't about devil worship, you know, in that part of the country. But not, I don't now. They are very well aware of that. I mean, they can go to the mall and buy them at Sephora. Yeah. You know, did you hear about this? Sephora put out a tarot deck or something like that. The makeup company.
Seriously?
Like, yes, you can look it up. There's definitely some folks that don't appreciate that. But I say, you know, I feel like it's such a helpful tool to open us up to so many things that I appreciated. It's fine with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yes.
I mean, long gone are the days where it was just sort of like seen as like a Victorian ladies' parlor game, and you know, such mysticism steeped around it and things like. Because again, it was used as a source of amusement, a source of being a little bit naughty and risque at the same time.
Right.
But again, you know, you're right when you say about the connection. There is always a connection between you and your deck. I mean, you were gifted your first deck.
I was.
I mean, how many decks do you have now?
You know, I don't have as many as some other readers have. I'm pretty traditional. I pretty much stick with like 3 decks, but I just incorporated the fountain deck recently, which is like this really gorgeous deck. Like there's let's see, this is this really gorgeous deck. I don't know if you can really see it very well, but that's
pretty.
Isn't it beautiful? So I just incorporated that. So I work with mostly 4 decks, but most readers I know will say, you know, well, you know, I've got my tarot library, and they're like, I have 300. You know, it's almost like they don't want to tell you. It's like they're like, I have 300 decks of cards. You know, so it's right. But for the most part, I'm not really a collector of things in general. And so even though I love tarot, I actually like, it's Rider-Waite, the Toth deck.
Yep.
Which probably a lot of, it's Crowley and
same one that I have.
Yep. Well, that's the Rider-Waite. Yep. And then the Toth. I said sometimes in New Orleans it's Toth, but Toth deck, which is Frida Harris's artwork in conjunction with Crowley's words. And then I also use the Hermetic deck is a big one. That's another classic. Yes. I do work. You have one of these, or you've seen these? This is a really popular Hermetic. Yeah, Godfrey, Dawson Godfrey is the artist, and I believe and the writer of the book, I believe. Wait, there was one other deck. Oh, and the Marseille, the traditional Marseille, which I don't have on me. I don't actually use that as much in my practice, just because honestly, if people are looking at the cards, I found with the Marseille, I lose their attention because they don't have. Oh, there you go. 6 of Swords. Yeah, the usual.
Yeah.
I don't keep people's attention don't seem to stick as much because they don't have the pictures. When I'm reading for people in person, I find that they like to look at pictures on the cards. So
Yeah.
but that would be my thought on that.
There's a lot of reading that does go into that. I remember obviously doing a pool, and yeah, no, it was you. It was you playing with yours, wasn't it? And then he pulled out like the death card, and he was like, "Oh God, Dad, no!" It's like, don't read into it as it is. It's fine and dandy. It's all good. It doesn't mean what you think. And again, it's not as everyone thinks. It's a strange one.
Do you want me to talk about the death card a little bit? It's one of my favorite ones to talk about. It's one of my favorite cards in the deck. Okay, so
Michelle was going to explain the death card.
I want to talk about. It's one of my favorite cards in the deck. So it's rebirth. It's transformation. So let's say you get the Two of Pentacles, which is one of the pip cards. Okay, that means change, right? And that's kind of superficial change. Like you get a new pair of shoes, you paint the bathroom. Those are all changes. They can even be fairly significant changes with the Two of Pentacles. Let's say you could get a different job, you could get a new car. Those things are significant, but in the end, they're just they're superficial. They're just surface, right? When we go to the death card, and this is the example I use with absolutely everyone. It's just one example, but the death card is the kind of transformation. It's the change where like somebody wakes up one day and they say, "Oh, I really am a pathological liar. Like I can't stop. I should get some help. I should do something," right? That's a change in like, that changes your character. That changes your soul on some level, right? And so, and like, even if somebody, I mean, if you're a pathological liar and you can't stop, well, then you probably can't stop. Like the journey to actually stopping lying that's going to take a long time. But here's the thing, recognizing it and accepting it and saying, wow, I have this problem. Like I'll literally say I had pastrami for lunch when I had turkey. Like it's that bad. Like I'm that bad, right? It was going to change your life and your relationships just to recognize that you're doing it, no matter how long it takes you to solve that problem. So with the death card, you're always talking about some kind of very, very deeply significant change, something that changes your character, something that changes, I believe, your soul life on this earth plane. I think is changed from the death card. Yeah. Transformation.
See, it's not all doom and gloom. It's
really not.
Kind of, if you look at it, it's kind of death of one thing, but rebirth of something else, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
so
find the death.
That's kind of absolutely. You can find it, sweetheart. Right. So.
I'm gonna have to go through it.
Mind your elbow, babe. Don't want you hurting. So when we say about like different kind of houses and things like that, or you hear sort of like the major or the minor arcane, I'll wait for you to finish.
Oh, go ahead.
That's all right. No, you carry on, sweet. Because I'm going to do the same. So what is actually meant by that?
Well, when you say major arcana, as far as I know, you can pronounce it both ways. And what that word actually means is secret. So it's big secrets and little secrets is actually what that means. The way that I really look at it is I look at it as the major arcana is kind of, it's the realm of the gods, maybe you might say, or it's the realm of the archetypes, as you might say. It's kind of a fantasy realm in a way. Whereas the minor arcana really deals with our life. Like you pulled the Six of Swords a moment ago. Like that card is saying like in your life, you're going from turbulent waters into smoother waters. Like you're leaving something behind and there's some sorrow in leaving that behind, but you're still going to a better place, right? Well, any archetype can be on that boat. Like, so say you pulled that card with the Emperor, that might mean that you've been the boss. You've been the boss man somewhere, right? And now maybe you're not going to be the boss man anymore. You're going to pull away and do something else. And maybe that's sad, or it's a change in for you that you're like, whoa, I kind of liked being the boss, but it was probably hard for you. That would be an example. Did you pull the Emperor with it? Is that why? Okay.
I did, but like I wasn't here last week, so it was his show. And I'm back this week, so he's sort of like.
So you're not the boss man this week. I got you.
So we'll leave that one right there, shall we? So Mika, just pass that one to show the death card to people, so they have an idea. So There you go, sweetheart. So the houses. How many different types of houses are there, Michelle?
So there's the tarot represents the four basic elemental kingdoms, which is water, fire, air, and earth. So you have water is the cups, air is the swords, wands are fire, and the pentacles are earth. So those are mostly represented, the dynamics of those are mostly represented in the court cards, but you'll find the pip cards are all in those suits also, right. Which is, again, it's like a regular deck of tarot cards, or a regular deck of playing cards. I can say that too. Spades are swords, clubs are wands, right? A club is a wand, right? Hearts are cups, and then the diamonds are pentacles. So you have the same suits in it, yeah. And then even some of the courts are there. I think the only court card you're missing in a regular deck of tarot cards is the page.
Right. Okay. And what the lays, when you do like your card lays and things like that, again, there are many different variations in card lays.
On the spread, yes.
Spreads, yeah.
Yeah, either way. Again, once again, you know, that's a point where I'm really traditional and really I keep it kind of by the books on that one. There's so many spreads you can do. Sasha Graham did a book that's it's 365 spreads, so there's one for every day, because apparently there's an international holiday every day for something, right? And so she did. I didn't know that really, but so she did this book. Yeah, it's a spread for each one. And the only one I actually remember from her book is that May 22nd is International Goth Day. For goths. Yeah, I know, but that works, doesn't it? I know. So we should celebrate that one. But anyway, I actually so I think that book is actually really cool for nothing else. You can know, and because there's an International Donut Day and Hot Dog Day and everything. Anyway, she's got a spread for all of that.
That's why I eat cake every day, because somewhere in the world it's someone's birthday, right?
That is so real. So real. Wow. What if there is one day a year where nobody's ever been born? No, it's impossible. Okay.
You got me thinking now.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I wonder. But I'm also I actually use a pretty limited number of spreads. Google that. Is there a day nobody's ever been born on?
Sorry. Yeah, we're Googling that right now. Google. Is there a day when no one was ever born? We're on this. I mean, what's the law of averages? I mean, if it is, honestly, if there is a day, that's it. We're closing down and we're partying. Fact.
No doubt.
Well, that means I just don't eat cake on that day ever again.
Ever again.
Sorry.
So yeah, I'm pretty traditional in the spreads I use also. So there's the 10 card. I call it a 10 card standard spread. I think mostly people call it a Celtic spread. I just don't actually know that tradition, so I felt like I should stop using that word, because I don't actually know much. I come from much more of the like Jodorowsky Italian type of background, so I don't know the Celtic, but that's what people call it. So I call it a 10 card standard, and I use that one. And I use another spread that's called it's called the Working With spread, and it's a 9 card spread. Those are my major spreads. The other ones that I use that I think that really will reveal what's behind a reading anytime you're in a reading is 3, 5, and 7 card reads. And I can talk about that a little bit. When you lay out your spread, and then you come across, say, some things in your, all right, well, let's talk about this. Hopes and fears department. That's part of the 10 card spread, is there's a position that's called your hopes and fears, okay? So a lot of times when I do a reading for someone, frequently the place I start, because you don't have to start at the beginning. Well, you don't, like, once you really get to a place where you really are looking at the spread as a whole picture, you don't really need to start at the beginning, okay? So if somebody's in front of me, like for example, if the death card comes up or the devil or one of those cards that people have a response to, right? And they're sitting in front of me, a lot of my practice is on the phone. But if someone's sitting there and I know they can see that death card or they can see that devil card or the 3 of swords, which is really, you know, right? I know they can't listen to a word I'm saying until I address that card, right? So I'll start there. But otherwise, I'll start in the place in the reading that I think has the most, where the card is the most pivotal, right? A lot of times that's your hopes and fears, because we're consistently pulling, you know, what we hope for, we fear, and what we fear, we hope for. We can't help it. It's part of how our psychology works, right? So if whatever's in your, right? So whatever's in your hopes and fears department is working very, very strongly on the, I always touch the back of my head. This is really where, this is who's driving the bus. We think up here, but who's really driving the bus is back here. And there's really, yes, back there. And there's really no way to talk to that part of your brain other than through symbols, which is one of the reasons that I think tarot is such a great psychological tool, because it speaks to that part of the brain that doesn't really understand words. So that's really what's in your hopes and fears department. So say that, let's say that in your hopes and fears department, let's say the 2 of discs is in your, or 2 of pentacles is in your hopes and fears department, right? So that would just indicate a fear of change on a very basic level, right? So now what I might do is, because I'm always reading with at least 2 decks, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay 3 cards down over that card. And I'm going to say, tell me more about this, right? And then I'll get 3 cards and lay that over the hopes and fears, right? And so now what I'm really doing when I do that is I'm using every position in the tarot spread like it's a door, right? It's like if you look at every position like it's a door, there's endless things behind every single one. And so you can use these shorter spreads, 3 cards to indicate something. So like 3 cards can really kind of be read as one in a way. So 3 cards is a good one. 5 cards is more of a narrative, like tell me a story about the fear of change, right? And so maybe in that spread, I'll get a story about, like, you know, maybe I'll see the 8 of Cups and some other things, and I might ask the question if I see the 8 of Cups in that, and this isn't really what the 8 of Cups necessarily means specifically, but if I saw it in a 5-card narrative on fear of change, I would say, was there an event where there was an abandonment? And then somebody might say, well, yeah, you know, like, you know, whatever, I had a parent that left, or I had, you know, somebody went to get a pack of cigarettes and never came back, you know, that kind of like thing might come up. Well, that might indicate what's at the root of your fear of change. Okay. And it would tell more, the 5 card would tell me more of a story. Is this good? Do we like this direction I'm going here?
Yeah. No, keep going.
Okay. So then something also that I used to do many, many years ago, I don't really do this as much anymore, but what I used to do many years ago is before I would lay out someone's 10-card spread, before I would lay out their whole spread, I would lay out what I call the 7-card narrative. And so I would lay out 7 cards, which would essentially, sometimes it would really go back to like a person's childhood. Other times it might not necessarily go back that far, but I would be able to tell them a story about themselves in kind of quick succession, right? And then I would say, where do you think you are right now in that story, right? And they might say, oh, I think I'm on this card, and say they were pointing to like the Queen of Swords, let's say. And so then I would say, all right, I'm going to base the 10 card, the standard, the Celtic, on the Queen of Swords. And so I would shuffle the cards, and I would say, you know, what does the Queen of Swords have to say to whomever, whatever, you know, Nancy or whatever, and then lay out the spread on that.
Right.
And then
was there any sort of like specific way like you're gonna like lay these out? I mean, is there like a specific space for each one?
Yes.
As part of the story itself.
Oh. Now, on the 7 card, not so much. On the 7 card, that's a little bit more intuitive. And also, like, there can be places where you might get 4 cards that are all about that one really bad marriage, or that, like, you know, like you write something that surgery that you had, you know, or something where it's just like your whole mind is like, please, 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 let's address this. Let's address this, you know, right? So you might get a lot of cards about that one thing. But, you know, as you go along and you're reading cards and you're telling these stories, the more you really get to understand what you're looking at as a story. Let me talk about intuition a little bit also, because it's really based in knowledge. Intuition is based in knowledge. So the more you study, like when young people come to me and they're like, how do I learn the cards? I'm like, do your homework, right? You know, like, right.
So I mean, I got that comes with the Rider Tarot, but then I've sort of like got two massive books up there that look like, you know, they're like the Doomsday Book, you know, huge big things, and I'm like, oh my life, that is far too much information to try and sort of like take in right now. So I think sometimes like that, it can kind of impede someone's kind of like learning process. Whereas I don't know if you use any of like the apps or anything like this, but there's one that I look at quite a lot, Biddy Tarot.
Oh yeah, she's great, Bridget, sure.
There we go. So when I'm on the go and I haven't got anything with me apart from my cards, that is always like my go-to thing.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. And also let me back up about what I mean about do your homework. I mean kind of in general about life. I don't necessarily mean go study, because you can't memorize things from a book and really learn to read tarot very well at all. It'll really just kind of, it'll always clog you up if you feel like you're supposed to be remembering things. What I mean really by intuition comes from knowledge. It's really the more you know about the things you already love or are interested in. You know, if you love science, the more you know about science, the better your intuition is going to be. If you love stories, and literature, who cares? Stories. If you love stories, and games have stories in them. You know, I love to watch. I know you and Mika play games, and I watch them. I'm a spectator. But they have stories, right? So the more that you learn about stories, the more you learn about science, the more you learn anything that you're learning in life is going to give you a foundation for your intuition, right? Your mind isn't going to land on something it's never heard or seen about before, right? How could it do that? It can't do that. So your intuition isn't going to land you on something that you don't know anything about. You have to have some kind of contact with it, right? So in saying that intuition is based in knowledge, it's really just me encouraging everyone to do the things and learn the things that you already love to do and learn, and recognize that all foundational for your intuition also, and your intuition with the cards. And the more I read cards for people, which I've been doing professionally at this point since 2012, and so the more I read cards for people, the more I also recognize what direction lives are likely to take, considering the cards that I'm looking at, considering what you've told me about your past, considering how I can see the way a certain problem is really affecting you. I can sort of tell how things are going to go intuitively because I've read a lot of stories and I listen to other people really well, right? So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, again, when we had Sabrina on, I mean, she uses oracle cards quite a lot. And I find even just by looking at the cards, I can already tell because of the colors, the pictures, you know, depicted on them and things like that. I can find it so easy to sort of like see where this is going and things like that. And again, you know, going back to like looking at some of the older like Rider Tarot, when you're looking at kind of like the death card, I mean, it does look kind of sinister with like, you know, your Black Knight on the horse, and it looks pretty sinister. Whereas I've got like another deck of cards upstairs, which they kind of picked me. So I was told when I first got into like the idea of doing tarot, I was told by the person, look, I said, which ones do I start with? Which ones do I start with? So no idea. And she was like, they will pick you. And I was like, really? How is a deck of cards going to pick me? So I'm going through, scrolling through. Yep. Super Smashing, Splendid, Super Smash. I saw this one set. Carried on scrolling, Super Smashing. It's like, I I've got to go back to that other set. Went down, had a look at it, had a look at the artwork, carried on scrolling. I had to go back to it. And that was the first deck of tarot cards that I bought. So, I mean, again, is it the same with yours? Did your cards pick you, or did you just sort of like, oh, they're nice, I'll have those?
Yeah. No, well, someone gave me mine, so they definitely picked me. And I don't think I would have bought a deck of tarot cards on my own. But you can. I mean, you know, you certainly can. That's cool. I love your story about that. They pick you, and then you have a relationship with them in this way, for sure. And you know, and too, the death card too. It's such a that's one of everybody's favorites, and obviously we've talked about it a lot. But something that occurred to me too is if you look at that death card, it's the equalizer is on there because there's a priest and a king and a child, right? Like death doesn't care about your money. It doesn't care about your innocence. It doesn't care about your power. Death doesn't care about those things. Whoever that dark rider is doesn't care about those things. So I think that's an interesting aspect of the death card also. But
and also,
yeah.
The way that you also said as well about sort of like the death of one thing and the rebirth of another as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's quite an imperative thing, you know, and it's when you look at it, again, everyone's sort of like freaking out, death card, oh my God, I'm going to die, I'm going to leave here, I'm going to get hit by a bus or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, the meaning of it, you know, death and rebirth. I mean, that's sort of like a real kind of...
It doesn't mean that you're going to die. It's just a card. Some cards can do harm, some can't. But at the end of the day, you always have to trust in your cards. You can't always go, oh, well, that's totally going to hurt me. Well, of course it isn't. You've just got to believe on what you've got to do.
Exactly, darling. It's a pictorial aid along the way.
That's me.
That's the Fool, darling.
Still, that's me.
Sorry about
Which
this.
one is it? Yeah.
The Fool.
Which one? Oh, well, it's the Fool's journey. We're all on the Fool's journey. You better believe you're the Fool. We're all the Fool.
Oh yeah. Never noticed that about the death card.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, never.
See?
So
yeah, in the philosophy of tarot, it's like that's what's really important in that philosophy of that card is that like death doesn't. You can amass all the power you want. You can amass all the money you want. You can even be as innocent as a child. And if philosophically, not as a card, it's not going to come up in your reading. I would never know that someone was going to die. That would not be. I would never know that, right? But philosophically speaking, that's where that card is coming from. Yeah.
Yeah,
and then the Fool, to speak of the Fool, that's another big one. That's 0, right? And that's where we all begin. And that's actually the character. If you look at the Fool, it's such a beautiful start. Also, if you look at the Fool, you know, he doesn't matter. We'll talk about gender and tarot a little bit too. But yes, she's walking, open-hearted, blah blah blah, open-hearted, falls off the cliff, right? And then has to begin the journey of the rest of the major arcana, right? That's kind of the idea. So to associate that card, I can associate that card with a couple of stories. This is so important in learning tarot, is to ground the cards into stories that you know, whether they're your personal stories or they're other big stories. I mean, for one thing, you could look at the Fool is truly the Forrest Gump. He's a Forrest Gump, right? So, you know, the Fool is as the Fool does, right?
King for a day, fool for a lifetime.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. That's for real. So, so another story that you might relate the Fool to also would be the story of Siddhartha before he becomes the Buddha. So, you know, he's living in the kingdom, and as the story goes, he's living in the kingdom, and he doesn't in these walls, and he's married and has kids, or at least one kid, and he has not yet. He's been so protected as a prince that he's not aware of old age, sickness, and death, and he keeps asking the servants to open the gates. Yeah, there he is when he doesn't know old age, sickness, and death. Okay, he doesn't know yet. And he's saying, and he's got his little hobo bag, and he's like, open the gates, I want to leave the kingdom. And they're always saying no, they're always saying no. But one day, finally, those gates open and he goes out and he sees for the first time, when he goes out into the town, he sees old age, sickness, and death. And he had no idea that those things existed. So that's literally Siddhartha falling off the cliff, right? And getting all banged up, because that had to be terribly upsetting, right? If you didn't know that that existed. And so then you can see the rest of the, you could use the rest of the major arcana as the Buddha's journey, if you wanted to. So he actually becomes, at that point, becomes the Buddha actually in the world. You could look at the major arcana that way, right? So it all kind of becomes one story. But he's liberated from old age, sickness, and death, if you like, at that point in time. So, right? So you really can tell, right? So you really can tell it as a story. And now those two things with the Fool, like, you'll never forget that I said Siddhartha and I said Forrest Gump, right? And so you can put your own, right.
No, that works.
So
that works. Sorry, Mika's just gone and got my my special box.
Ooh.
And that's got my
They're one of my favorites.
Oh, how cool is that? Oh,
They're
that's
one of my
awesome.
favorites.
Crack these open. This is the one that never leaves the house. It's kept in a special box with its little tablecloth.
Yeah,
wow, I can feel that over here.
It's got silver sides.
So we've got
gorgeous.
all silver, and let's see what we can find. So
these are the ones that I love.
As we've been talking about the death card, let's see if I can find that one. No, they haven't. No, it was me that used them the last time, sweetheart. So
I remember the death card. I loved telling the story about it. It was brilliant. The story that I thought about.
There's still so many different stories that you can relate to the cards. I mean, like when I said to you, like the Fool, you know, King for a day, Fool for a lifetime. I mean, that's taken from like the original Wicker Man movie. Again, about a pagan celebration. You know, so yeah, there's so many that you can relate to. Where is it? I bet it's going to be the last card, isn't it? It's got to be.
Always, the one you're looking for is always the last one, and you can't trick it. You can't go to the you can't trick it.
I can't even find it.
Or it's just gone.
Where are we? The World, Illumination. I tell you what, let's have a look at the Queen of Pentangles. Look at that bad boy.
Oh, she's gorgeous. Oh, wow.
Is that too much?
Oh, she's gorgeous.
Again, like there you go, like Ace of Chalice.
Ah, wow. Yeah, that's nice.
As I say, I mean, I knew absolutely nothing at all about tarot cards. But then I kept going back to this one. I've got the devil. The devil.
I like this one. This is the
best. The devil. What do you like about the devil, Mika? Oh, gorgeous.
There is a lot of red and darkness, and it shows that it's really the devil. It's not no fake, it's the real devil.
Right.
Oh, I like that.
This is outrageous. I cannot find it. 9 of Wands, 10 of Wands. The Magician, the Emperor, the Hanged Man.
Oh, I never knew the Emperor was in this deck card.
Wheel of Fortune.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pretty.
Oh, that's nice. That's lovely. That's lovely. What's the name of that deck?
Oh, hello. It is the Prisma Visions Tarot.
Oh, gorgeous.
I'll send a picture and pass it on to you. So I've got Temperance, the Star, or Penska. Oh man, this is becoming in better. Right, I'll tell you what. See if you can find it. I'm going to carry on talking tarot.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, where were we? Oh yeah, choosing cards, telling the stories about certain ones and things like that.
You went straight past it.
I knew that. I was just testing. Well done. There we go. There's the death card.
Oh, with the white rose. Oh, beautiful. Oh my God. White roses are my favorite also. Absolutely. Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Ah, stunning. Stunning.
There we go.
And that, yeah, you're beautiful. Beautiful.
I'm looking for
again, it's they picked me.
Yeah, that's right.
But,
That's right.
well, they must
But that's really like along with your quick book that you get with your deck, and along with Bridget Esselmont, the Biddy Tarot stuff, I think is really great. I think that's a great place. The other one I think is a really good one that's online is Eclectic, ACCELETIC, Eclectic. That's a good quick place too. So in learning, in learning to read. Oh, ACCELETIC, eclectic.
So ACCLEC TIC.
I really need to get a tag.
Eclectic and Biddy Tarot. So what we're going to do is we'll put those links in the show description as well.
Great. But you use those things and you combine them with your own story. The best way to learn to read tarot is to pull one card every morning, look at what you have about it, the little things that you have about it, and then seek it out in your day so that you start to come up with meanings and stories. Seek it out in the films you watch, in the books you read, the games you play. Seek it out in these different ways so that you start to have stories for all 78 cards. You'll be able to turn them over. You're like, oh, I know what that card is. Even if it's like, it's a feeling that you have, like, oh, this card, you might have, okay, like the Seven of Wands is a good one. Like in the Rider-Waite, he's got the wand up like this, right? So, because I'll talk about reversals in this a little bit too. So like, that's like when it's inverted, you might say, that might be defensive-ness, right? But when it's upright, it's just standing up for what you believe in, right? So if you see that card, which way is it going? Are you being defensive or are you standing up for what's right for yourself, right? You see how those two things, they're not exactly opposites. So when talking about reversals also, I also recommend in the beginning not to read them. You should go ahead and look at the whole complexity of the card. Take it dignified and ill-dignified. So when you see the Seven of Wands, see it as assertiveness and defensiveness at the same time. Because here's the thing. Each of these cards has a personality, like we have a personality, right? And so when I'm around somebody who brings out the best in me, you're going to see the best in me. When I'm around somebody who brings out the worst in me, you're going to see the worst in me, right? I'm still the same person, right? So the cards, as they're laid out with one another, that's true for them too. So when you're first learning, if you look at both sides of the card as a complex personality, then your readings will reflect that depending on the other cards that are around, right? So if you have a feeling of like the time that, somebody always say they made a nickname for you that you didn't care for, and you were always like, grr, I wish they wouldn't say that or whatever. And then one day you were like, could you actually, I pick my own names, thank you very much, or whatever that you say. And that feeling of having been assertive in that moment, that's that Seven of Wands, right? You were assertive, not defensive, right? So if you have that personal story in your life regarding the Seven of Wands, then when it comes up, you'll start to relate it to that feeling and that story in your life, right?
Yeah.
This is really the best way to learn to read the cards, and it'll come fast, actually.
And again, as you said, like the fluidity of the story as well. When you look at one, if it's sort of like in correlation with another one as well. Are you okay?
I can't hear you for a moment. Oh, no? You muted yourself. Oh, okay.
No.
Keep talking.
Hello.
Okay, I can hear you now.
All right, cool.
I can hear you.
And then
can you hear me?
You say sort of like, yeah.
Okay.
You're all good.
Okay.
All good.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Ground control to Major Tom.
Yes.
Okay. But as you say, also the fluidity as well, sort of like one sort of card sort of like correlating with another one as well, which then kind of segues into where you like to go next, which is the genderism of the cards.
Yes. So I think that one of the things, I love it in the court cards where we can talk about this, because you have the king and the queen, which in most decks gender them. You have some decks that are coming out now where people are taking the gender aspect out of it. But if you're reading one of any traditional deck, they're going to be gendered. And here's the thing, is that it's not really so much male and female. I wouldn't even say it's yin and yang necessarily. I wouldn't even say it's either of those things. It's two basic psychological parts of yourself. It's the part of, there are two basic parts. One part of you experiences and the other part expresses. When you're in the throes of any kind of experience, you're really just having feelings, you're having sensations, you're trying to come up with like what to do next, all of these things. You're not really making words and statements about what's happening to you, okay? Then the other part of yourself does that later. So in the court cards, we could say that the queen is the one who experiences and the king is the one who expresses that. But again, if you gender that, we don't do ourselves a service. But inside of ourselves, there is one part of ourselves that experiences things and then goes and shows that experience to the other part of ourselves, which then makes an expression about it, which I think is this really wonderful thing. Like if you think the Queen of Cups, I think, and the King of Cups are a very good way to look at this. Like the Queen of Cups, when she's in her most like dignified state, when she's upright, as you might say in the deck, you know, her feelings, that water, it just flows into her clothes and she's fine with it. She's fine with it. Whatever comes and goes. You know, like the great stuff, joy, happiness, laughter. I guess laughter is a feeling, humor. But then the other things, grief, jealousy, anger, she's fine with all of it, right? Because all of that's, those things don't take a break. They're in us all the time. Just one, they're being active or inactive. That's it, right? So she's fine with all of that, right? So she's fine with all of that stuff when she's in a, you know, at her best. When she's at her worst, you could really see the queen. You could really see it as the Queen of Cups just being thrown around by, like, I know you're by the ocean a lot, so you see you know when there's an angry ocean out there. You know when that ocean's angry, and you know, like that's when I got a feeling on that one. That's like one of the most beautiful and terrifying things that I've ever seen is an angry ocean. But if you think of the Queen of Cups being tossed around by that ocean, and then you kind of imagine her coming back to her kingdom, like crawling back, like sopping wet, and like, oh, I've had the worst day, you know. And the king kind of, you know, then the king looks at that and says, oh, well, I'll put it into a vessel. I'll make a form of that, and I'll be able to express what that day was like. And I think I think those two make the best example, but all the kingdoms do that.
Yeah.
And then you see it in the Lover's card also. Yeah.
I mean, when we're saying about the genderism, I mean, like in the Rider deck, when you look at the Queen of Wands, I mean, she does look incredibly butch.
She does. No, you're right.
I don't know whether or not she just kind of signed up to like the KD Lang club, but she's looking very, very butch there, isn't she?
She is for sure. You know, I'll tell you what Rachel Pollack said about her, which is she said she's the most sexual of the queens, and you know it because her legs are open.
And if you have a look, what's between them?
There you go. It's that cat, right? That black cat. So she's the witch also. That's her familiar. She's the witch of the deck. Yes, exactly. And if you look at them, yeah, I mean very feminine.
Absolutely.
Looking. Right.
I mean, a feather boa, and he's on his way.
Yeah, exactly. So none of it's, gender is for us, not for realsies. That makes sense. Yeah.
Kind of there. Right? We're there. Yeah, no, we're good. Outrageous. I didn't think it was going to take that kind of turn, I'll be honest with you. Right, Michelle, are you ready for some questions?
Sure.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Let's pass you round to Sarah, and I'll speak to you in a moment, sweetie. All right?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Ta-da!
Hey! How you doing?
Great. So far, so good.
Great.
We're going gentle enough, right?
Okay, the first question that we've got is the lamps behind you. They're flickering. Are they real, or are they real candles?
Oh, no, they're real lamps that are flickering.
Right, fab. That's cleared that up. We weren't
Yes.
sure whether they were candlelight or whether they were lamps that were flickering.
They are lamps that are flickering. We're in a very magical space. The spirits are playing with everything here.
Yeah, there you go, Mark. We've got it. Okay, John, what are your thoughts on Crowley's deck and book?
Oh, okay. Well, I actually that's interesting because I had the Rider-Waite deck that I was given when I was laid up when I first learned to read the cards, and one of the books that someone gave me, or actually that I purchased from a shop in the French Quarter, was the Thoth book, was Crowley's book, and I just really, I had studied philosophy in school, so reading things that didn't make sense to me was fine with me. And so I actually wound up combining those two things together. So I have more of a basis in Crowley's work than maybe sometimes I even realized, because I was such a newbie at the time. I took it in. I think the deck is absolutely gorgeous. I think Frida Hera's artwork is beautiful. And when it comes to Crowley's work on that, one of the most important things from studying Crowley and the cards is that the cards can really be tricksters. And if you are really not asking the appropriate question, or you're asking the same question over and over, the cards, they'll say like 10 of Swords, Death, the Devil. That's what you wanted, right? Like I'm messing with you now because you won't stop asking the same question, or many of those things. But I think he really taught me to deal with the cards as the tricksters that they may be. But I am very heavily steeped in his work also. So I like it, if that's the best answer to the question, the easiest answer.
Okay, fabulous. Excuse me. John's asked, what draw do you mostly use, and how many cards?
My primary one is the 10 card standard, or the 10 card Celtic. So there's 10 cards and 10 positions. And I will do that. I lay that out for every single reading that I do with clients. And then I lay other readings out on top of it. Almost always. I always read 2 decks.
You use 2 decks?
I always read with at least 2. The most I've ever gotten out for a reading is 5 decks. I did one reading once where I needed 5 decks of cards. It just kind of depends, because I'm opening doors. Each card is a door to all these things behind it. And depending on what I'm trying to work through with someone, we may need to go through a lot of doors. We may need to go to the world of the High Priestess. We may need to go all the way to the underworld, and that might take several decks to get there.
Wow.
That's not one train ticket, right?
God, I thought just reading with a few cards was,
well, you don't have to start there. Don't start there. I've been doing this a long time at this point.
Okay.
It's a lifetime study, which is what I love about the tarot, is that I'll learn something about tarot the moment I die. I'll be like, oh, that's what that lobster in the moon really was. And then I'll drop dead. And I'm glad that it's like that.
What a beautiful outlook.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Davey has asked, can Michelle please explain the difference between divination and tarot decks? I have cosmic deck of initiation.
Yeah. People
say this is not tarot, that it's divining deck.
Oh, that's interesting. I guess what I could say, people for sure use tarot to divine. To do divining work for sure. People come to me for that a lot. I prefer to use the cards a little less predictively myself. I'm not sure. Maybe I can't really answer that question, because the tarot could certainly be a divinatory tool, and is generally considered a divinatory tool. I don't know if the deck you have is an oracle deck, or it's, I might have seen you show these on the chill one night, the round cards, I think. But you can use them to divine also, but you can use tarot like that also.
Okay. I was just waiting to see if he was going to make a comment or not, but
Okay.
I forget that we're obviously a couple of seconds behind, aren't we? From
Yes.
okay, back to them. Mark, are the cards pulled at random to determine an outcome, or is there a higher power at work?
Wow, that's such a great question. I come from one of the places that I start when I teach tarot is if people need permission to just have a deck of cards, that's where I start a lot. I say, you know, my personal belief system, I don't believe in sacred objects, which is just my own thing. So if you just want them to be a deck of cards and that's less frightening, please, by all means, you have my permission to do that. But is there a higher power going on? There's something going on when I read, definitely. And let me talk about that for a second. I finally got to this place where I started to understand what the difference between my own thoughts were and what I would consider claircognizance. Okay, so I come in on this side, and if something's coming through on this side, I consider it to be something I would very generically call my guides. Very generically. I wonder sometimes if it's not a more relaxed part of myself that's just really able to get in tune with another person and just really, like, there's so much that happens to me physically. That's the other thing. When I'm reading, like, I'm pointing to my body like this because I read through my body now quite a bit, which when I first started reading cards, I just wouldn't have expected. So there is something going on. Is it a higher power? Maybe. Is it guides? Maybe. Is it a relaxed part of myself? Maybe. It's, you know, I mean, what is the mystery here? And I'm not entirely sure, but I will tell you, I get very strong feelings. And sometimes what'll happen is I'll think a thought in a word that, like, I just wouldn't use. It's just not part of my language, you know, to use it. Not words I don't know. Like, I don't start, you know, speak in tongues. I mean, some people do, I think. But it's not a word I don't know, but it'll be just a word that wouldn't be my word choice. And when I say that to another person, sometimes they'll start laughing and they're, you know, because they recognize the word choice. Or I remember once I pulled the name out of an air. I was like, you know, I know you'd like to go to Jody and get a phone number. Like, I was just pulling out a name, and it wound up, which I don't even know anybody named Jody. There's no reason for me. And it wound up being somebody she knew, and she thought that was very funny, and it all made sense in the reading for her. So I kind of go with, I get visuals that are not necessarily, I'll get strange visuals about things that are not necessarily like, oh, your car keys are under the couch. Like, I can't help you with that, really. But I'll get a certain vision about how you're holding energy in your body or in your mind, or just even maybe how you're holding your thoughts in your mind. And when I speak about that, people find that very helpful. So I guess really the answer to the question is yes, and I don't know at the same time. Hopefully that was helpful.
Can I add to that, Michelle?
Sure, I'd love it.
What about if you were doing a reading for someone, but you let them shuffle their cards and pick their own cards for their reading? Is that acceptable within tarot, or?
Yes, when I read with people in person, I hand them the Rider-Waite deck and I shuffle the top deck. Yep. And I have them shuffle their cards while they tell me what's going on with them. And then I have them put down their cards on the table when they're done shuffling, and I say, break it into 3 piles. And then I distract them with something completely aside from the reading and anything we just talked about in some way. I'm very charming, so I tell them a story, right? In some ways, you know, I'll distract them, right? And then I say, tap a pile, and we'll take the reading from there. So technically, they do pick their own cards. So absolutely.
Brilliant. Because I mean, obviously, we've seen a lot of people do tarot readings, but yet no one is, you know, the person who's having their reading hasn't had like touched their cards or anything like that. So when I done my reading, that's what I done with the lady who I done the reading with. I got her to wash her hands first, and then to pick her own cards out.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, that's great.
Yep, excellent. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. That was
yeah.
cool.
Okay. Davey has asked, how many times can you do tarot before being affected by the same narrative read from the symbols subconsciously from the cards? And do
Okay.
you think this may or would blur any further future readings?
Okay, I'm going to break that question down a little bit. I think daily work with the cards helps the symbols to work on your basic psychology and heal us in ways. I think is a really important aspect of it. In terms of any kind of future divination, any kind of predicting the future, as Niels Bohr, who's a physicist, says, it's very difficult to predict. Prediction is very difficult, especially where the future is concerned, which I think is hilarious, right? So, so the cards can affect you in the choices that you make. So they're affecting the choices that you make about your future. But the future is always mutable. Like there really is no set future. I can actually hear it. Let me touch on this a little bit because I like to tell this story. We may know the story of Oedipus, but I think we don't always really know the story of Oedipus. So Oedipus goes to the oracle, and the oracle tells him, well, you're going to kill your father and you're going to marry your mother. And he says, well, no, I'm absolutely not going to do that. I would do anything besides do that. That doesn't make any sense. So, but since that's what the oracle says is going to happen, then the only way for me to change that outcome is I have to leave town. So he leaves the kingdom into which, as far as he knows, he was born. And I think he's going to Thebes. I can't remember if he's leaving Thebes or going to Thebes, but he's going to another kingdom and he's going to escape the fate the oracle gave him, right? And on his way there, he gets in a fight with somebody and kills them. But he goes on to the kingdom and then he falls in love and he gets married. And later on, he finds out he killed his father and married his mother because he had been adopted. That's actually the story, right, of Oedipus. Ooh, I got a chill. I get a chill when I tell that story, right? That's crazy, right? Wow. So that's actually the story of Oedipus. So the power of the oracle is intensely important. And when you are predicting, ooh, I have a chill all over me. When you're predicting what's going to happen with someone, you're affecting how they're going to make choices for their future. So I'm not sure. I don't know that I answered the question that was intended, but I hope that's helpful in some way. But using the symbols on the cards, I think that they're healing for the aspects of our mind that we can't speak to.
Okay, that makes sense. Mark has asked, can the reader's knowledge and interpretation of the cards determine the meaning of the pulled cards? Could they get it wrong?
Sure. The most important thing I think in reading cards with other people is to feel the energy between you and that other person. If you're reading cards for yourself and you don't feel confident that you know what those cards mean, well, and if you're reading cards for another person and you don't feel confident about what they mean, or feel confident in what you understand their meanings to be, then I would definitely be looking at your book. But yeah, you can definitely get it wrong. And it depends on the question. Let me do this. I had a reading the other day, and the woman saying, this relationship, and I'm looking at the cards, and the relationship, it looks really good, and I'm getting these feelings in my body. I'm like, oh, this is so exciting. This is new love. What's better than that, right? And she says, they're coming to see me, and I want to know how that's going to go. They're coming for a visit. And so I lay out some more cards, and I'm saying, well, how's this visit going to go? How's this going to go? And all of a sudden the cards are just, oh, they're bad. Oh, it's not good. And I'm like, oh no, and it's on the phone. I'm on the phone. So I'm stalling a little bit, because I don't want to break this news. And then also I am always thinking of the Oedipus story that I just told you. That's consistently, I think that is the best thing that you can keep in mind as a reader of cards while you're sitting there to give good and effective readings that will help people live empowered lives, because that's really what you want to do, is to remember that story about Oedipus, right? So, but I don't lie about the cards and I don't put things back in the deck just because you can't see them. I don't do that. I really am genuine in what I do. Anyway, I pulled out another deck and I did it again, and I got the same, oh, this is terrible, this is terrible, this visit is terrible. And so I started to like slowly go into like, well, I wonder if there aren't some things you're going to find out about this person in the way that they live on a daily basis and blah, 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 all this stuff. And finally she said, well, my housemates don't want her here. And I was like, oh, okay, now we're getting somewhere. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I'm so glad you said that, because that's what the problem is. So see, the question is, I asked, how's the visit going to go? And the cards are going to answer the question that I asked, not the question that I meant. So I asked, how's the visit going to go? And the cards were like, terrible. It's going to go terrible. The housemates don't want her there. Like, this is going to be awful. And so when I turned around then after she told me that, I turned around and I said, how is the visit going to go? And then the cards went back to the way that I had seen it in her long reading, which is, it looked like, and I was like, oh, this is a very significant relationship for you. You're going to have a wonderful time. You know, you're going to have a terrific, tremendous time with this person. And I said, but, you know, can you get an Airbnb? You know, like, get a bread and breakfast, because like otherwise the visit's going to actually go quite terrible and you're going to be miserable because these other people don't want to be around it for whatever reason. And so, you know, she agreed that they would get an Airbnb. So anyway, that's, you know, in some ways, so you can get it wrong. And especially when you don't ask, so when you're not asking the question the right way. So if it's something really, really serious that somebody's asking you about, you know, definitely go over it a couple of times and ask the question a couple of different ways and really feel the energy of that person, and refer to your own knowledge about life. Like I said earlier, intuition really has so much to do with knowledge and with lived experiences and the things that you know about how stories tend to go. How does it tend to go when, you know, when somebody, you know, if you have somebody that comes to you and they're like, oh, well, you know, I'm in love with this person who's like cheating on their partner with me. Well, how does that tend to go? Not always, but often how that tends to go is then that person winds up cheating on you. That's often how it goes. So use that type of knowledge and understanding that you have about stories and people in your reading. So I hope that helps.
Oh. I think so.
Oh, one other thing. There's a saying, lucky in love, unlucky in cards. That's another saying. So there's literally some people who just like, it doesn't matter who you go to or how many times you get your cards read, the cards, you're going to get a terrible reading every single time. So like, if you're one of those people, just do something else, use runes or something.
Yeah, don't use the cards. Okay, Mark has asked, do all the different brands of cards have the same symbol or pictures on them?
No, they don't. They all vary quite a bit. I think that Thoth, Hermetic, and Rider-Waite have the most. I mean, but those are the decks I use. But those, particularly Thoth and the Hermetic deck. Now, the Hermetic is a very complicated deck, and it has all the symbols on it. And there's several different types of Hermetic decks, Golden Dawn decks, that definitely I highly recommend. But at the same time, you want to talk about a lifetime pursuit, is, you know, you're not going to, the Hermetic decks are a lifetime pursuit, definitely. But I do think this, though, I do think that the tradition of the tarot, the numbers on them and the way the major arcana is laid out, the way that the deck itself is laid out, I think for the most part, almost any deck is going, I'll make a caveat to this in a second, but almost any deck is going to be helpful to you in your healing. The only place where I really think that this is different, there's a couple of decks that I really think are cool that are like Leonardo da Vinci, Salvador Dali, Lisa Frank. You can get Lisa Frank on a deck, which I think is so cool. But here's what I'd say about that. The pictures were not made to go on a tarot deck. It's somebody who is putting together a tarot deck and they're like, I really like Lisa Frank's art, or I really like Salvador Dali. And so I'm going to take portions of their art and put them on a tarot deck. In that case, I don't think that they are as helpful. I think anyone who sat down, though, to say, I'm going to draw my version of the Wheel of Fortune or my version of death I think that you're going to get something subconscious and beautiful and healing from that. That would be my one caveat.
Okay. John has asked, so he watched CW pull cards for people that were unaware that he had done so. Do the cards...
You're breaking up for me.
Okay, sorry.
You're...
Am I clear again?
No?
No,
you're still breaking up for me. Yep. Keep going.
Are we clear again?
Oh.
Yes,
oh,
no?
You're breaking up for me.
Oh, God. We're having a breakup session.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Let's not break.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay, try it now. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So John has watched CW pull cards for people that were unaware that he had done so. Do the cards he pulled still represent
You know what? You break up. You break up on me every time you say CW. So there is there's some magical. It starts to break up every time you say CW.
Okay. So
that should tell you something right there. He doesn't like us talking behind his back like this.
Yeah. So if cards are pulled for people that are unaware that they have been pulled, do the cards they pull still represent for them?
I'm not. You are frozen mostly for me over here, and I have a strong internet connection.
Yes, so do we. We're on a high Wi-Fi here. I don't know what's going on.
I can hear. Wait, try it again.
Can you hear me clearly?
It's kind of breaking up, but let's try it again. So CW pulls cards.
He pulled cards at CITD for people that he had met. No.
No, maybe I should go on and come. Maybe I should go off and come back on.
Give that a go.
Let me try that. Okay, let me go off and come back on.
Okay, guys, sometimes the older internet does go a little bit wafty, especially...
We are going across the water, you know.
Yeah, we are, aren't we?
We're across the water.
We're across the water. And, yeah, and you never should talk to people that you want to. Let's give it another go. Let's give it another go.
Come on, Michelle.
Oh, we've got... Michelle! Hello! Hey, how are we doing now?
Oh, no.
Please don't do this to us. How are we doing?
I can hear. Let's see.
How are we doing now?
All right, I think maybe. Let's try.
Okay. If somebody pulls cards for people that are unaware, would the cards still represent for them?
Unfortunately, we are having technical difficulties all of a sudden.
No.
This isn't good. It's not good.
No.
Hang on.
Bear with us, folks.
Just talk for a minute.
I'm going to keep talking. Okay, right. So,
I can hear Jimmy a little. And Micah.
Most people can.
Yeah, it's me that I just get.
Over that one. Hello, Mum.
Okay,
Right.
How are we doing?
That sounds good.
Hey!
Okay.
No,
I won't move. I will not move.
Mom, you move.
Okay.
Don't blink.
This is the last question. apart from were you going to be pulling any cards for the chat room? So if somebody pulls cards for people that aren't aware.
No, I
No,
can't.
okay,
I can't hear you.
We'll scrap that last question. I'm sorry, John. I've tried about 6 times, darling. We'll scrap that. Try turning the phone back towards you. See if any connection happens.
Hello. Oh, you got any button on your headset?
No, it's headphones.
Button on headset.
Is there a button?
Button on headset.
Okay. Right.
Buttons
Okay, so shall we cut?
on head.
Do you want to cut? No? Okay.
You want me to try to take them?
All right. Hello.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hello again. Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
I can hear you a little bit, but it's not. It breaks up.
Okay. Well,
Like
what I'll do is I'll hang up and then rejoin. Okay.
You want me to do that?
No.
Okay.
No. I'll do it. Right. So. Oh, Michelle's gone. Michelle's gone. I was going to end it.
Okay,
right.
Well.
Okay. So what we'll do is, folks, we'll give it another go. If we get no joy, then what we'll do is we'll cut the show. And we'll have a chat with you.
I like the show, but at the same time, I do like doing cards. I got to admit, I'm putting it out there. I know that might have been interrupting, but doing cards to me is quite important.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
And Dad knows it's pretty important for me.
Hello. Right, no. Yeah, no.
Maybe.
Right.
No.
I'm going to hang up. 1 minute. Ooh.
Michelle.
Hello.
Maybe.
No.
Nah, maybe.
Hello there. How are you?
It's just not gonna. It's not full words.
No.
Oh no.
I blame CW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah.
This proves it. This proves CW's power. Wait.
Yeah.
Try again. Say one more thing.
Can you see the chat room?
It's not working.
No.
Can you see?
This would be a good rap song. This would be good techno music.
For all those watching, are we okay?
Hang on.
No, there's nothing else we can do. Okay, Michelle, we're gonna have to wrap. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming on. We love you very much. Let's do this again.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
bye,
sweetheart.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Right.
Bye.
Why don't you go? Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Right. So.
Okay, well, I guess we'll keep this sign for next time then.
Yeah.
We'll keep the mum and then.
What do we think in the chat room?
I think what happened is it wasn't from our side.
No, I mean, did we sound clear? Our side, guys.
I think we all sounded clear.
Yeah, I did. I think it may have been her headphones, which is a shame. Because I was looking forward to having Michelle. I'm glad we managed to cover as much as we did anyway. And we got as far as we did. because to have Michelle on is a real bonus because she really knows she really knows her peas and gravy when it comes to tarot. So I was hoping that we'd get round to doing a pull.
Pull again.
Take the card out.
We can do that now. I'm sure we can. I'm sure I can try. Trust me, I can try.
Who would like a card pulled by Mika? Is this a good idea? Right. I'll spin you around. Tell us what is occurring in the chat room, Sarah.
Okay. If you would like Mika to pull a card for you, let me know. I've got the chat up. Okay. John Ledford has said yes. He would like a card pulled.
Okay, so you keep talking.
And Mark Tarana.
Right, so have I got to read out what it means?
Yeah.
Well,
right, Mika, you take the cards.
Turn the camera round so that they can see you doing it, please.
Oh yeah.
And Uncle Dex.
Hang on.
Okay.
There we go.
So take the energies out. Right, give him a good shuffle then, buddy.
I'm not even looking.
No. Give him a good shuffle.
Oh, I've gone into a daydream. Oh.
We may be here quite some time.
Hang on. I'm in a daydream.
Remember,
I can't get out.
Remember, it's John first. So don't think about. Just think of John.
Think pretty things.
We met John, didn't we?
Yeah, John came on the show, didn't he?
Last week. So think about him.
Right. I think we are ready to go.
Right, hang on. Let me have a look.
Front bit, so I'm gonna. Oh no!
Oh, please help him.
He's good. He's got this. He has got this. 100%.
It's called knowing how to shuffle cards.
How's that working out for you? All right.
Yeah.
Where's the reverse bit? All right, it's all at the end.
See, guys, we got good sense of humour.
Right, I think I've just about got this covered.
No, well, let's see.
Right. I'm ready.
Okay, so.
Okay.
Do you want to try or something?
Yep.
Right. So.
I want you to lay them all out like.
I can't touch him. You're the one that's doing it.
Oh, no.
I know. So.
Cut them in half.
What about? Yeah, cut them in half.
That's it. No, let's do this.
Doing it that way. Okay. Right. So.
Okay.
Just pick one.
I know it's a bit of a mess, but I can do it.
Pick one. Anyone. Right.
Let
me turn this down. So. There we go. Right. So.
Okay, John Ledford, pick a card for him, then, darling.
Any card.
Use your powers. Pick him a good card.
Anytime today.
It would be great. This year. Right. So what we got? Okay. We've got the 6 of Pentangles.
Now then, what did Michelle say? The Pentangles was?
Pentangles.
And voila! Let's go.
Right, so Pentangles. Where are we? It's gone.
Suits, isn't it?
It is. It is one of the suits. Is it the Pentangles? I can't find it.
Say something.
Can't find it.
You.
Oh, I can't find it. I know, right? I love it when a plan comes together. Right, here we go. Pentangles.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Spark. It's
disappeared. It's disappeared.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what do you see? What do you feel when you look at the card?
Well, it's upright.
And it's it's for John.
I think that the man that's standing in the red coat is John, and we know that John shares stuff, so he is sharing stuff with the people that are only new to this thing. The yellow coat.
If you look, it looks like the man is sharing money with the needy man in the yellow coat, but
he's homeless.
He also has the scales that side and passing judgment on another.
So he's a very balanced man.
And I think that's what John is. No offence to you, John, but that's what I'm just seeing in my head.
That's really
Okay.
annoying me that I can't find it. Oh, here we go. Found it. Right, so two medicants in a snowstorm pass a lightened casemate. No, that's the wrong one. 6.
All right, don't worry about it. Let's go. Right,
6.
Who's
Right.
next?
One in the guise of a merchant weighs money in a pair of scales and distributes it to the needy and distressed. So, presents gifts, gratification. Another account says attention, vigilance. Now is the accepted time, present, prosperity, etc. So, hope that helps, John. Right. So, Mika,
Okay.
who's next up?
Who's next?
A giver and a taker. Fabulous.
Yep.
Yeah, totally
Right.
right, Mark.
Mum.
Mark Trana.
Mark Trana.
Right.
Now remember, we've spoken to Mark many times. Think about Mark.
We know Mark. We know Mark very, very well.
Good day, mate. Yeah.
G'day.
The one.
Right,
Yeah.
stop. Right. As you're pulling it out, like that, flip it round the right way so you don't turn it up.
I don't want that one. Oh, justice.
Oh, Marky. Marky.
Oh, justice.
Wow. What a card for a Mark.
You're a good man,
Justice, Mark.
Justice
Mark. Right, so let's find.
Now then, Mark. I think that's a very good card.
Can't find Justice.
Oh my gosh.
Mark says, "Good day, Mika."
Good day.
Right, so I've got the last.
It's nice
judgment.
and hot here. Yeah, let me check the degrees while we're waiting, and I'll deal with
Wait, Mika.
Yeah.
Where are we, Justice? What's it not here? Why can I not find it?
Well, it must
This
be there.
is why I always use Biddy Tarot. It's a lot easier.
Ah.
Do some singing or something while we're waiting.
La, 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 la,
Justice is a major
Arcana. Yep.
Numbered either 8
Found it.
or 11,
Right.
depending on the deck. This card is used in game playing as well as in divination.
And that's weird.
Equity, rightness, probity, and executive are the main.
Yeah, that sounds like Mark.
That is Mark. Equity and rightness, because he's right on so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
Boom!
Yeah, we. And so remember.
Okay, Uncle Dex.
Turn it like that. Don't pull it out.
Is this the last one?
Yeah, I think this is there anyone else? Because otherwise, Uncle Dex is going to be the last one.
No.
Come on, Mika. Come on. You got this.
Here.
Right. No, that was upside down. Come out that way.
Terrified
So
Grail. Isn't that right, Mark?
he's getting the feeling for the card. And you've got the upside down reversed Knight of Wands, Dex.
Is that good or bad?
He's a wizard! Magic!
You're a wizard, Dexter.
Dex.
Right, so where are we? Knight of Wands. Wands.
Oh, we've got Ethan as well.
He wants
Wands.
it. Rightio.
Ethan is an amazing person who you know about most of this. Right, so where are we? Ace.
Rightio, Ethan.
2, 5. Right, Knight of Wands. He is shown as if upon a journey armed with a short wand, and although ailed is not warlike errand. Divinatory meanings: departure, absence, flight.
Oh, flight next month.
Ew.
Emigration.
I don't think that one's right.
A dark young man, friendly change of residence.
Yes.
Right, so yours was reversed. So it means rupture, division, interruption, and discord.
Oh. Oops.
Okay, Ethan.
So there we go. Ethan wants one.
Ethan.
Well, you might want to put the camera back then.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Work your magic, Mika. Work your magic. Right, so Phil.
This one.
Okay, upside down, Queen of Pentangles.
So this is what it should have looked like when it came out, but instead, it's that when it came out.
Right,
Probably
so what's up?
Yeah, well, laugh out loud. Dex has a short one.
That's not the first time I've heard that, neither. Where is it? Queen
Do you guys want to have a card pulled?
I don't know. I don't think anyone's actually got enough time, have they? Have we got enough time? Yeah, we have. Right, so the Queen of Pentangles. The face suggests that a dark woman whose qualities might be summed up in the idea of greatness of soul. She has also the serious cast of intelligence. She contemplates her symbol and may see worlds therein. Divinatory meanings: opulence, generosity, security, magnificence, liberty. Reversed: evil, fear, suspicion, suspense, and mistrust.
Now, that's not right. I'm sorry, Ethan, but that's the way it came out. But at the end of the day,
Tis what the cards don't lie. The cards don't lie.
cards do never lie.
Right, okay, so who are you going to do next? Are you going to do Mama first or Daddy first?
Mother. Okay. I'm getting a feeling down right at the bottom. This one. Ooh.
Hang on.
Ooh.
No, that would be the right way around that. Again, another Pentangles.
Ooh.
So what have we got there? 7. So 7 of Pentangles is...
Daddy knows Roman.
I'm getting there. Right, a young man. Let me show that. Leaning on his staff. Looks intently at 7 pentangles attached to a clump of greenery on his right. One would say that these were his treasures and that his heart was there. Divinatory meaning: these are exceedingly contradictory. In the main, it is a card of money, business, barter, but one reading gives altercation, quarrel, and another innocence, and purgation.
Sounds like Mum. I'm being honest.
Are you happy with that? Because it's the card, and the cards don't lie.
Cards never lie.
The cards
right.
don't lie.
You now.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, you're scared now, aren't you?
No.
Good. You should be.
Wow. That took a very dark turn quickly, didn't it?
Oh, surprise, surprise, people. That's the card that Daddy pulled out a couple of half an hour ago.
Yeah. So, beautiful, fair, dreamy woman as one who sees visions in a cup. Divinatory meanings: good, fair woman, honest, devoted, who will do service to the querent. Loving, intelligence, and hence the gift of vision, success, happiness, pleasure, also wisdom and virtue. That doesn't sound anything like me apart from the Queen bit, really.
Right, I'm going to actually do myself.
Oh, you're doing a card?
Yeah, I'm doing myself.
Okay, right, so.
What should I do after the show? No, I'll do it now. On camera.
Yeah.
The Lovers.
How did you pull that one out? How did you pull that one out? Mika's laughing because the man's got a dong. Sarah's laughing because the man has a dong. I'm the only one that's not laughing, which is a surprise. Right, okay, let's see if I can find that one. The dong. Right, where's the lovers? The lovers, the lovers, the lovers, the lovers, the lovers, the lovers, the
And
lovers.
this is the boy that's had the same girlfriend since nursery school. So that's 7 years he's
Mika.
had the same girlfriend.
Right. Why can't I find the Lovers?
I've got a magic card.
Can't find it. Can't find it. Sarah,
You're a
I'm gonna need you
wizard,
to look at-
Mika.
there you go. Mama's on it. Mama's got it.
Do you remember 21st time?
It's just taking a second to get there, folks.
Yeah, hang on.
Thank you for bearing with us.
I've lost it.
Oh well.
You lost it years ago, sweetheart. True story. True story.
Okay, the Lovers is the 6th round for major oracle card in the most traditional tarot.
Oh,
A
hello.
man and a woman standing possibly in the Garden of Eden with the Tree of Life behind the man.
And his dong's out.
The Tree of Knowledge behind the woman.
Yes, I'm not.
The Lovers represent relationships and choices. Its appearance in a spread indicates some decision about an existing relationship, a temptation of the heart, or a choice of potential partners. Yes, often the aspect of the front.
Whoa.
Now, this is the boy that keeps having conversations with 4 or more girls in one WhatsApp. And one is not his girlfriend.
Ooh.
How about that?
Damn.
So, does
So
anyone
that all
else?
sounds like me, except for one.
So, do any of our guys, any of our audience, do they do tarot or angel cards or oracle cards? Because you've got yours over there, haven't you? Your angel cards.
I've got my angel oracle cards.
Do you want to do a poll for our audience? That's it. There you go. Pull one off, Sarah. Do you want me to hold the book?
Book.
Now, these are my cards.
They look special.
Yes, Mum does spill the beans. And these are gold edged.
I like my Prisma Vision, which are all silver.
Yes.
I'm jealous.
Is my mum there?
I don't know if Mum's still here. Okay, Marcus said he would like a card.
A card.
Okay.
Another one.
No. One of Mummy's angel cards.
Law of Attraction.
Oh!
Woo!
Okay, Mark.
Oh yeah.
Relationships and activities that you once enjoyed are now changing as you become more sensitive and aware of energies. A truly beautiful woman in the sea of life.
Sea of life. Mark swimming in the sea of life.
Right, Mum.
There you go, Mark.
Can I have one?
Yes, just a moment. Oh yeah, Mum's still here.
Sweet.
Yay.
John would like one too.
Okay, so pull off John. Pull one off for John, even.
Oh, I forgot now. Oops.
She didn't say she wanted one.
The Archangel Michael.
Oh, hello. That's a good one.
You're working very closely with this powerful Archangel who's protecting and guiding you through this situation. Wow. What an amazing
That was a good
card.
Archangel Michael. Protection.
Absolutely.
I do have protection, thank you.
So there we go. Oh, Paul for everyone. Yeah, go on then, Ethan.
Is Ethan pulling one off?
He might well do. He might well be, but I'm not sure whether I want to know or not.
Well, I don't know. Ethan, are you pulling one off for all of us, or are you just pulling one off for yourself at the moment?
I've got to do a reading for the collective this month anyway. Go for it, Ethan. Did
Yep.
you want to come on? You're more than welcome. To do a card for the collective. And then we will wrap the show. Yeah, I'm not sure what Ethan's pulling.
Dad's just going to have to do something.
Well, Ethan, it's up to you.
If Dad wants, I'll do the shout outs. Some of them I won't understand.
One for the collective. Come on then, Ethan. What have you got for us? For everyone in the chat, the 16 and the 3 that we've got here. What have you got for us? Yeah, come on, just read the card because we go over 5 minutes. I'm sure people won't mind. Come on and do a read in a collective 1 card pull. Some might say. Well, the link.
One more.
Yeah, I know we're waiting to that. I'll just pull a couple and report in chat. That'll take a sec. It'll take a sec to join. Okay, no problem. Go for it. Seven, the Chariot from Rider Waite.
Yep. 7 of Chalice.
Sarah looks like a geisha girl in the light of the screen. Oh, bless you. Oh, yeah, because I've got the lady behind me. I know the silence is deafening. Yeah. I've never been great at filling silence, unfortunately.
Everyone knows that dead air is a crime.
It is a crime. You're absolutely right.
It is.
But you disappeared out the room. The delay. Yeah, I know. Sorry to that.
Do you want to do another pull while we're waiting for anyone?
I'll tell you what, why don't you do the shout outs?
You haven't done a pull for me yet.
Oh, I haven't done a pull for you.
I haven't done one for me.
Oh, Okay.
10, the Great Wheel. Siren Starseed. That's totally Mika.
We even had that confirmed by Mary Rodwell, didn't we?
We did.
Mika is taking the test.
Yes.
Isn't he?
Your card.
Yep.
Have you asked your angels for help with this?
Should I?
Your angels want to help you with this situation. However, they require your permission before they can intervene with your free will choices.
You have my permission.
10, the Great Wheel. Yep. Mika has been confirmed as a starseed, so he's going to be taking the test with Mary Rodwell. So that is going to be something that we are going to be looking very forward to. But we have confirmed that we know he's a star child anyway, and I'm sure you do too. Ethan said, yeah, you have to direct message him in Hangouts for me to join, and I'm a bit behind the live feed. So, yeah, no, that's fine. So we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to pull this card for Mika, and then we are going to wrap the show up. Vacuum away fear for Mika. Call upon Archangels Michael and Raphael to lift fear-based energy from you, your surroundings, this situation, and everyone involved. There we go, Mika. That is your card. Okay.
Even though I don't have a vacuum that can take my worries, but
well, you do. You do. That's what your mummy and daddy are for.
Oh, I thought there was a vacuum to clean up the mess.
Archangel Michael. Who got a card pull with the Archangel Michael?
Dex. No.
John.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
What does John do in our room? He protects us.
Yes.
From trolls. Mika has a fear of the trolls.
Yes.
So therefore, the Archangel Michael represented John, or John as the manifestation of.
John, I will send a video to you of praising you. Okay.
Okay. Mark has said, interesting show tonight, guys. Learned a bit about tarot. So we are very pleased about that. Okay, back to the boys where they will finish up and do the shout out. So for me, it's a very goodbye and thank you so much.
Bonjour.
You're stuck with us again, I'm afraid.
I know.
Nearly lost it again.
Oh, wow.
That'll be 2 shows where we've lost it. Right, okay. A massive thank you to Dave King.
Thank you
to Dave King for your very, very kind donation to our PayPal.
Appreciate it.
Yep, we really genuinely do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
For everyone else that has donated, we are still waiting for our camcorder to turn up. It is in transit, so maybe a matter of time before we have it here, and we're going to be doing some really, really, really cool stuff. I'm not going to go into what we're doing, but we're going to do some cool stuff. We're going to get it on video. We're going to get it on cam. And then we're going to release some videos for you to watch on our YouTube channel, as well as taking it to Awakening, where we'll be meeting some interesting characters there. Won't we, Dex?
Won't we, Auntie Liz?
Okay. Do you want to grab?
Okay. Taking me a long time to
Right. Thank you very much. Right, so before we do the shout-outs, Fascination Street's album of the week.
It's got to be Duff. His new.
It was released yesterday. And
I've got to say, Duff, you're our man. You are.
It's Duff McKagan's new album, Tenderness. However, being Duff McKagan, don't expect it to be the usual loud, proud, punky rock sound at all.
It is really nice and mellow, I've got to say. I'm not a mellow guy, and that is quite good.
He made it with Shooter Jennings, so you can imagine that it's got a real nice kind of country sound to it. And with Duff's vocals as it is, it really is an amazing thing. So
I bet you should check it out. It is really good.
Yep. Yeah, if you go onto YouTube, there's a couple of the tracks from that album on there. Tenderness has become one of our favourites. I think we put that out as our song of the week a little while ago, didn't we, when that first came out? So yeah, genuinely cannot recommend Duff McKagan Tenderness if you like something nice, mellow, and a bit country. And we don't normally do country, do we? We normally like hard, fast rock, punk, and stuff like that.
Well,
but
Mum is a country.
Mama likes a bit of country. I'm not quite sure where we were going with that.
No.
Anyway, shout outs. So, Natasha, Mysterious Forces Live, really good to see you back doing your thing, and I'm glad you had a quick recovery. Erik Stitt from Erik Stitt Art, Dave Partridge, please get Shadows of Your Mind back to everyone. Message Dave and tell him to get Shadows back together.
Do you know what? I'll let you have a week off.
Okay, Brett Larson, Inquire Within. Ray Davis and Dennis Nappy at Sixth Sense Media. Our good friend Sabrina Campbell, we love you. Kelly and CW. Davey, Brandon, Robin. Paranormal Hood, Jiggy and Smoking. Big shout out to our moderators. You guys do an awesome job, and we love you very, very much. Thank you for keeping us safe, and especially keeping our little guy safe. And the biggest shout out of all, to the audience.
We really appreciate you guys really watching this because you support us a lot.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate that you understand how we do our show because we're a family show. We're not separate. We are a family show. Everything we do for you, and we do value your input. Your input is very, very big in what we do. So we've got some more guests on the way, which you've suggested. You have totally suggested. Next week, we have got Dr. Irina Scott, and she's talking about her new book, Corridors, which is all to do with cover-ups. So it's not a beginner's guide next week. It's something a bit different. So please join us next week. Same time, same place, same family, same face, the first family of Fringe. So it's goodbye from me. A goodbye from me. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now. Bye, everyone.